What is happening, everybody? Welcome to today's video. So in the last video, I basically started wet sanding and polishing the car. I'm pretty far along actually. This whole side is done. The trunk and the hood are also done with the first step. So I'll go over some of the products and stuff that I'm using because a few people have been like DMing me on Instagram, whatever, asking what the process is. So I'm gonna go over that a little bit more in this video than the last video. I didn't really touch on it too much, but I would say the car is over half done. I just have the other door and fender and quarter panel, which really isn't that much considering the trunk and the hood are so big. So we are gonna just get into wet sanding the quarter, the door, and the fender, and then polishing all this up. And like I said, everything else is done until I get this wet sanded and then cut, and then we'll go around and do the whole car with, I believe, was gonna be like the final step. So I'm just gonna get into it, and I'm gonna have to move some stuff so I have more room here. I was gonna take the car out, spin it around, because there's more light on that side of the shop, because like the wall is here, but it's cold and now it's dark outside, so I don't feel like doing that. So I'm just gonna move a bunch of stuff out of the way, probably throw it over there, and then yeah, we'll get into it. So in this video, I wanted to go over a little bit more of the process and steps and like products and stuff that I used to do this, because I had quite a few questions. So hopefully by the end of this video, the car will be completely polished, done, and then we can start assembling the car. But yeah, first I kind of wanted to show like the difference, right? So the hood, like I mentioned earlier, is completely done. So when you see the reflection of like the overhead lights in the paint, you can see that it's pretty nice and straight as far as like the edges of the light reflection go. But then you look at the fender and you can see there, it's kind of dancing around. It's got a little bit of texture to it. And some spots are, you know, better than others. Some spots are worse. The top parts aren't too bad just because it's easier to lay the clear down and not worry about it running because it's just flat. That's basically what I'm trying to do. Like, it's not like a terrible paint job. I'm just trying to smooth it out a little bit, just that much more, and basically get rid of any little dirt nibs and little fish eyes and stuff here and there. So just trying to, I wouldn't say make it perfect because that's not ever gonna happen, but just make it, you know, better than it was. So yeah, basically I'm just using this block, which is, it's made by Big Kids block. They're really good though. It's just a nice hard acrylic. You can use like the foam, like Durablock ones or whatever, but those don't really cut as nicely as like a rock hard surface does. So you don't have to use like this, but like I think people actually make aluminum ones and stuff too, but just the harder basically the block is, the straighter, like whatever you're doing, bodywork, primer, clear, whatever, it's gonna come out straighter. So we're gonna start with this, with some 1500. You could do 800. I've done 800 or 1000, but for this car, I'm just gonna go with 1500. It's, I mean, you've seen, you know, the other stuff, so it's good enough, and it'll get rid of all of that kind of, I would call that like heavy orange peel. I mean, I know I've seen much worse, but I don't like that. So we're gonna go with that with some 1500 and basically show you what we're looking for while we're sanding. My only one complaint with this style of block is that there's like no way to hold it other than just like the 1/4 inch of material of the block itself. I would much prefer if there was like a handle, but then you wouldn't be able to hold the sandpaper on because it's not sticky, it's just a sheet. But so that kind of sucks. That's why I wear gloves, because it actually really hurts after a while. You're like sanding your fingertips off. So I usually just wrap it around like that, but wear some gloves and it should be okay. Now what we're gonna do, basically just gonna wet the panel down, not like super wet. I'm probably not the greatest person to be explaining this, but you just want like something like that. You want the paper wet. And I'm just gonna go like this. You know, just nice and wet, and then the panel basically just damp almost. So then this is pretty much just like any other type of body work or sanding, where you just want to stay nice and consistent. You don't want to dig in anywhere. Just keep the block flat and just be consistent with it. This is only 1500, so you don't have to worry about huge like gouges in the clear coat and stuff like that. But you'll actually feel while you're sanding the texture of the panel, and you can actually kind of feel once it starts smoothing out. The sandpaper will want to like stick to the panel. So now we're just gonna dry it off. Normally I use like a squeegee type thing where you just kind of whisk the water away, but microfibers also work. You usually use 2 of them. One takes the majority of the water out, and then you get the rest with the last one. And now this is when you'll actually see what's going on. So this is actually the whole reason that I'm wet sanding this car, to get rid of this kind of effect that you see here on the edge. So just imagine this is all, you know, orange peel. And then this is kind of the in-between. And then here is like no orange peel, other than a little bit. Like I gotta go over it again, but you get the idea. So you want it nice and consistently, you know, flat like that. And then you can also start to pick up on little dirt nibs and fish eyes and stuff like that. So here's a fish eye right here. I'll sand that out a little bit more and it'll basically be undetectable once it's done. And this one here is a dirt nib. It's hard to see. Make sure I get all of these. There's another dirt nib there, dirt nib there. So this is basically why I'm wet sanding the entire car, because little stuff like that is just, you could denib a car and go around, but you'll have smooth spots like here, 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 where you want to get rid of that stuff. I'd rather have the whole panel one consistent finish. Usually you'll go over one time, see what you're working with, and then you'll just go back and hit kind of all your trouble spots, and then it'll be done. So this is now all 1500, and you can see it's a lot smoother now. I mean, it's hard to tell because it's flat, but anyways, so this is 15, and now we're gonna go to the DA with 2000, and then we're gonna use 3000. So the paper that I'm gonna use for this actually like isn't paper. It's like a foam backed, kind of like a cloth. It's more of like a material, kind of like a mesh. Anyways, it's made by Merca. It's really good though. I actually really like it. I actually prefer it over the 3M like Trizac stuff. The 3M stuff is actually like way more money, and honestly I prefer this stuff. I think it works better. So this is 2000, and then we also have 3000. There's a little difference in color, but yeah. So we're just gonna go over the whole thing with 2000, and then go over the whole thing with 3000, and then we'll see what that looks like, and it'll be like almost shiny again, and that's pretty much what you want. This part does not take long at all. The initial sanding part, like the blocking, that is what takes all the time and gets out 95% of the imperfections, and then this is just to smooth out those harsh sand scratches and then make it something polishable. So we're gonna do that, and it's gonna be cool. All right, so now that is ready to polish. That's 2000, 3000. So one thing that you have to look out for when you're going to like the finer and finer grits is you wanna make sure that you actually get rid of the last grit sand scratches, I guess. So it's really hard to see. You can actually use a guide coat. Most guide coats though are black, so it'd be like really hard to see on this dark color, but there is a couple companies that make white guide coats, but I just make sure I go over the panel, you know, a few times with the DA and it's usually gone. So you just want to be careful of that, because you don't want to end up polishing it and then you see a bunch of like straight sand scratches. That sucks. You gotta go back, sand those out, and then continue polishing. This is all ready for polish. I'm gonna continue to sand the door and the fender off camera, then I'll come back to probably the quarter panel or the fender, whatever, and we're gonna start with the first step of polishing, and that should be right now. That was a few hours of sanding, but we got it done, so no big deal. It's actually the next day now. I gave up last night at like 1 a.m. So now that we have this whole side of the car done, 1500, 2000, 3000, now it is time to bring it back up. So what I like using, a lot of people don't like this. They say it's old, whatever technology. I like the wool pad with like an aggressive kind of cutting compound. So I'm gonna use that, which is, I think it's a 3M wool pad. And then I also have the 3M like purple bottle. And that's just gonna be the first step. That'll basically bring it back to like a shine, and then I'm gonna go over it with some griot stuff, which I just actually recently started using, and I really like it. I just find that this is way fast. I know you can do this with the DA style, like the griot polisher and like that whole system, but I find it takes too long. Yeah, I don't know, I just prefer this. It's what I've been using like for the past 10 years while I do this. So I'm gonna start with that, and we're gonna go down the whole side of the car, do the fender, get it completely done. Probably have to go over it like 2 times, I would say, to get all the sand scratches out. Then go to the door, go to the quarter, then we'll pick it back up with the orbital or the DA, dual action, whatever you like to call it. And like, that's gonna be pretty close to finish. There is like another step after that, but my plan is to go around the whole car, get it cut, and then get it refined a little bit. And then what I wanna do is around that windshield frame, which I realized I should do that first because it's higher and it's gonna get everything covered in compound. But being a convertible, I wanted to cover the interior and like tape it all off nicely, and I was kind of in a rush. I just wanted to see how this was gonna work. So I'm gonna have to kind of retape that so we can sand and polish just the windshield frame. And then we'll actually be able to put the windshield in, so that's cool. But yeah, gonna get to this, polish out this side, and kind of go over some of the things that I do and watch for. And yeah, we'll see some stuff happening. So the one main thing that you wanna remember with the Rotary is it's super aggressive, right? And it's just spinning at like, I don't know what I have mine set at, about 1400 RPM. These pads apparently are good up to 2500, but that just seems insane. So you just want to be very aware of your edges. So the polisher spins clockwise, right? So you want to remember which way it's spinning and kind of go off the edge that way. So you have like this hard edge up here, so you want it to go that way. You don't want it to come into it, because then that's going to allow the pad to catch the edge, and then that's when you're going to end up with burn throughs and stuff like that. So it kind of takes a while to get used to and to like maneuver around the panel so you're always holding it the same way. But that's the best way to avoid like burning through the edges and stuff like that. There's a ton of clear on here. There's like 7 coats of clear on here. So I'm not super worried about it, but you still have to be careful because you could also melt it too. If you get it too hot, it's never good. So what I'm gonna do is basically start up here and kind of go in this main area. Then I'll come back, do lower and around the wheel well and down here. Over here, gotta move it around a little bit. And then, so yeah, you see the pad is spinning that way, which is good, that's what we want. So it's gonna go from that surface just off. If I was coming from this way, it would be spinning and grabbing like into that, and you can honestly make it like a huge mess and like bend panels even. I've seen that happen. So just start off nice and slow. So now I'm gonna come back from this angle, get this whole top edge and do a little bit more around there. Like I say, it usually takes 2 times over the same area to get it basically done and then ready for the next step. Looking pretty good. So yeah, that is pretty much finished. I'm gonna go around and just make sure that all the edges are nice and shiny again. Overall, that's basically what you're looking for. One thing you wanna make sure is that like from every angle, it looks good. So you wanna go like down to these lines, because you know, sometimes you'll miss in here, but I mean, that looks, I guess, pretty good. So I'm just gonna go over it like real fine and make sure everything is good. And then once I'm happy with the condition of this fender, then I'll move on to the door and the quarter and so forth. And then we'll pick it back up when all that's done. Okay, so now we are done with the initial cut. That took about an hour, which I think is pretty good for like the whole side of a car. So you can see, looking pretty good. Nice and smooth and straight. So now it looks good until you put a light on it. So that's what this next step's gonna do. so you can see with that light, it's just like the swirls, and like it looks terrible once you put the light on it. You see a lot of cars like driving around in traffic looking like this, come from the body shop, you know, got the dirt nibs out of it, and it just looks terrible. So what we want is this, where like you can just see the light, the outline of the light, nice and crisp. There's no fuzzies following the light. You can see here. So this is the fender, not done, obviously, just the first step. And then the hood, we got the second step. So you see there's a massive difference there, even in color. Like the hood is way deeper, like richer looking than the fender. So now we're gonna go and get rid of all of that. Now I'm gonna go to the DA instead of the Rotary. And I'm also gonna use the Griot's actual like fast correcting cream stuff because it works awesome. I probably could technically skip like the first fast correcting cream, probably go to the next one, but I like doing it this way because if there's any spots that I missed where there's still a little bit of haze or some sand scratches or whatever, this will still take that out because it's like designed to basically be the first step like I just did. So it's just another little extra layer of protection, and it doesn't take that long to go over it now that it's already brought up. And now we can just basically start to perfect that finish and get rid of those awful looking haziness marks. So there's really no craziness to this. So I'm basically just using the 5-inch Griot's, the boss, long throw orbital. And we're gonna use the 5-inch white microfiber with the fast correcting cream. We're gonna dab a little bit on the pad, put it on the car, and it's awesome, honestly. It's probably one of the best things I've ever used. We'll do that, get this side of the car done, show you basically how it looks, and then keep on moving. That is done, and my light I think is gonna die, but I just wanted to show real quick the difference, because overall, I mean, it doesn't look much different, but now, let me go to the door that's not done, and you see all that, right? Go back to the quarter. Beautiful. So now, hopefully when it's out in like direct sunlight, it's not gonna look like this. And it's gonna look like this, and that's perfect. That's what we want. So just gonna continue, do the door, do the fender, but I'm stoked. This looks good. About half an hour later, this whole side of the car is now done with the Griot's. This is the stuff, by the way. I haven't showed it. This is it, the fast correcting cream. There's like 3 different correcting creams. This is the most aggressive one, and yeah, it works awesome. So now you can see, remember the door before it looked way worse in the corner? Well, now everything is nice. No hazing anywhere for the most part. I don't see any. Looks awesome. I love it. So that's done. Now, because I'm an idiot and I kind of forgot to do this upper part, I retaped the whole roof section. So now I'm gonna wet sand this, polish this, fling compound all over the basically almost finished car. I mean, there's still like another step to do, so it's not a huge deal, but yeah, I'm gonna wet sand this because you can see down here, there's quite a bit of texture. And then now on the fender and the door, there's none. So I have to get that out, and then that will be done. And then we can put the window in with the molding, because the molding overlaps. So you really can't put the window in until you're fully done like polishing or whatever you're doing there. Unless you want to hit the molding, but you don't want to do that because you have a white mark. So anyways, this is the last part of the body basically. And then we'll go over the whole thing with the final step, and then the body will be completely done, which is crazy. So now this is done. I didn't film any of it because it's the same as everything else, but now you can see that this texture is pretty much gone and it matches the rest of the body now. I'm also beginning to do the thing that I've kind of been doing the entire time with this car, where I'm like, oh, I'll just do this, you know, one little thing, and then it kind of snowballs and continues into a much bigger thing. The whole body is cut, and like first step, like it looks really good. Now that the whole car is gonna be beautiful, I wasn't gonna do this like 8-inch section on the trunk because the spoiler covers like from here up and then hangs over, so you don't really see it that much. It just kind of butts up to the bumper. But now, I don't know, there's really not even that much texture because it's such a small area. It laid down like pretty okay, but there's some texture. And now I'm just debating, I've come this far, should I just do this now? I don't know. This is the struggle I've been having for the past almost 1 year now. I think I'm gonna do it. I'll take this back out. It's just sitting there just so I can open and close the trunk. Take that out, lower the trunk down a little bit, wet sand this area, do the same thing. Then the whole body will be done, other than the roof. Like I said, I'm not doing the roof right now. I'm not worried about it. It'll be in the trunk. I don't care about it. I'll do it later if I am concerned with it, but do that quick. Then we'll start going over the whole car with the, I think the final, probably like it's the second, but I think it's gonna be the final step. So that'd be good. So I'm not entirely sure where I left off, but this thing is completely polished. Now, I went to go and, I didn't film any of it, but I went to use the second step and like continue that way. And I think it's expired. It was like really sticky and like really thick, like way thicker than the correcting cream, which is weird. It should be thinner. So I'm just gonna leave it how it is for now. The thing that I'm trying to have the car done for is like really coming up in like a few weeks. So, and also I got accepted, which is super cool. That was kind of up in the air still. So there's still a few moving pieces that have to work out in order to go and do all this stuff. So I'm gonna leave it as it is. I've talked to a few people who are like heavy into griots, and they said like the fast correcting cream is like crazy good, and you can most of the time get away with just using that, and it's good. So with the spotlight on it, there's no swirls, there's no like halos or whatever, anything like that. So that should be what it's gonna look like in the sunlight. Moral of the story is I can come back once the car is completely done. Now that these steps are done and it's fully cut and like technically is polished, if I want to in the future, once the car is put together, everything's done, I'm back, then I can get some new perfecting cream and then go over the whole car. So the car can be assembled and then I can do it. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna save, you know, a few days of work just by not going over it again. So now what the focus is, I sanded the mirrors. The gas door has been sanded, door handle's been sanded. All I have to do is sand the spoiler. This area is sanded, and then all I'm gonna do is scuff these, basically tape off the chrome. And then the last thing I have to do is the lenses. They look really good. I sanded them and cleared them. But the issue is that this one is actually a different set of headlights. And for whatever reason, it's like a different plastic almost. So it's like really white looking. So I think what I'm gonna do, because I don't have time or the money to spend right now to buy new ones, I'm going to sand them again and then add a little. So I'm actually gonna just add a little bit of like black to it and kind of tint them. I don't really want like smoked headlights. I don't like that at all, but I just want to distract how like white, kind of milky looking that one is, and then paint the inner black, and then hopefully they'll look kind of clear still, but you won't be able to tell that this one's like really milky or whatever. But yeah, I just have to sand this, re-clear it, because you can see it's very bumpy. Once that stuff is re-cleared and painted and stuff, that'll be this weekend. Then I can start putting the car back together now, because that is basically the last stuff that I need, and basically the door handles. I can put all the window glass back in and basically put the interior back together. And I've come to the conclusion that this pizza top is like really bad, so I'm gonna leave it to last. It's kind of sucks because I really like it and I want it to like be on the car like for the event, but at the end of the day, I'd rather have a complete car with like mirrors and handles and stuff like that, and the spoiler because there's giant holes in the trunk. This, if it's not on the car, you won't really know that it's not on the car because I added it. So I would like to get the car fully done and then worry about that. I'm really hoping I can just touch up the fisheyes and sand it like I did on the hood and the trunk of the car. But if not, I'm gonna have to like fully sand it and clear it again, which will take a lot of time, and I'm not putting that in front of getting the car done, if you know what I mean. So I'm not like rushing things, I'm just kind of moving things around so that way I can kind of get this car done and, you know, leave things out if I have to. So that's pretty much it. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna end the video right there. The whole car is polished. That's a huge step. I'm super stoked on that. Honestly, I'm really happy with how it came out. I was a little bit iffy, unsure if it was gonna even turn out nice at all, and I'm just super relieved with how it looks. I'm honestly really happy with it. So next video, hopefully we're gonna have the car like starting to go back together. All the little stuff will be done and we can basically start throwing the car back together, getting the windows in. Either the next video or maybe the one after that, this car should be like completely done. And that's crazy to think, even though it's been like almost exactly 1 year, like this month. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. And if you want to give it a thumbs up, give it a thumbs up. If you want to subscribe, if you're not, that would be cool. I much appreciate it. Also, I appreciate you guys watching, especially if you watch these longer ones this far. Anyways, that's gonna do it for this one, and I'll see you in the next one.